Life after the gunshot. We back. Let's get it. What's good, family?
Hey, the first episode has been out for a week now. We appreciate the views. We just got the news. I think we had like 8K. Hey, guys, we really appreciate you guys supporting the first episode. Honestly, you know what I'm saying? We mean that from the heart. Continue to support, continue to share. Hey, guys, make sure you are at these networks. I did a poll on my Instagram, and everyone said it should be on Netflix. So I need everybody right now to add Netflix. Let's take over their timeline. Let's get Life After the Gunshot, the first episode up there. We need your help.
Life after the gunshot, where the comeback's better than the get back, baby. So, thank you for everybody that supported us, that's watched the film, and for all your kind words and support. Shout out to NPR, to Alexander Turk, who had us on Here and Now. You can catch that on NPR. And just to everybody, in the DC, PG, and all across the country that supported our work. But what's more importantly, man, what we got to really address is the sponsors of our show.
Hey, y'all see it down there. Y'all see it bottom right corner. Got the red letters, got the yellow letters, got the blue letters, 3 letters. Hey, shout out to Eat, man. We love what they doing over there. You know what I mean? Go to their website, cop some gear. The summertime coming around. You know what I mean? So go ahead and get y'all shit out the way, man. Go ahead, order your shirts, your sweat, hoodie. Maybe not your sweater. It's going to be hot as shit. But your shorts. You know what I mean? Hey, I like that new Dickie shirt. They got some Dickie shirts up there that's fucking great.
The Dickie shirts are fire, and them headbands are fire, too. So, no further ado, man. I think, the guest that we're going to have on tonight is going to be amazing as the guests that we've had in the past. And this is going to be a really interesting conversation. We got a little interesting twist on this conversation. We're going to approach a topic in a totally different way that hasn't been approached before. So let's bring her on, mental health consultant who also does amazing domestic violence work, Queen Afi.
One of the largest misrepresentation in this day and time when it comes to domestic violence is only women are abused. And I'm fighting against that because I know for a fact that men are abused. I know for a fact that teens are abused. Why? Because I did it. Women have been killing men since the beginning of time. But the other thing with it is that women will make that initial phone call. They will call the police first. Men will not. If a woman is keying your car, she's flattening your tires, make the call because we need to get numbers on you guys. We need to get resources on you guys. So there's an even balance of treatment at the end of the day when it comes to domestic violence.
Without any further ado, let's bring her on, Sister Queen Afi. There she is, rocking the DC fitted.
Miss Queen, what's up with you?
What's going on? Can't hear you, Queen.
No, we
still can't hear you. Not yet either. Let's bring her back. Bring her back in. Cut her out and just bring her back in. Let's keep it moving. So, bro. Oh, there she go again. Can't hear you. So look, man. This is what happens when you live on Live After the Gunshot. Some of our guests are just traveling. And appreciate you, Uptown Slim. I watched the good stuff. Y'all Twitter about it. Salute to you, Uptown Slim #1. Salute.
For sure. This is the name of the business, right?
Yeah, we just did this on another podcast, which was crazy. We were jumping on and their sound was crazy. So I gotta respect the game in the same way that we respect the game with other people. So no further ado, we said this show is sponsored by Eat. Yo, jump into that Eat. Ah,
Hey, that's an old school joint right there.
yeah. Salute to E. Yeah, I know he's gonna come.
To eat.
Yo, get that E gear, man. Them headbands, hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts. Summertime getting ready to pop. That E is gonna be live. You got to be wearing that when you in the streets. All right, she back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Oh,
we can hear you
that's
now.
great.
Oh, you like
Okay, wow. Woo. Y'all had me nervous. Dang.
yeah.
God Almighty.
You was like that commercial. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
So,
Can you hear
yo,
me
it's
now?
all good. We back.
We back.
Yeah, you had me sweating a little bit, like woo.
You had me sweating. I'm over here sweating like Lord.
Man, we was gonna have to add
We ain't gonna have to freestyle the whole show.
man, what?
I got too many. I got pages of notes here with questions.
Right.
What are you talking about?
No, we gonna proceed.
All right, let's do it. Let's get it. So, yo, just give us a little bit of background. Where you from? Where you came up at? And all of that.
Queen Afi, Washingtonian, Northeast. Born and raised Northeast DC. In the Rhode Island area sector, Edgewood, T Street, McKinley High School, Dunbar, all that side where I grew up at in the city. I'm having a tough conversation, domestic violence, of course, and mental health. And being able to be in a position to, give back to my city has just been a wonderful opportunity, helping them have such a tough conversation. So I'm grateful to be here.
We appreciate you coming on the show. So I want to jump in.
Dunbar real quick, man. My uncle went to Dunbar. Dunbar got a real history in DC, man. I think my uncle went to Dunbar. I want to say in maybe 1947, 48 or something.
Ooh, long time ago.
A long time ago, man. He told me how it used to be segregated, back during those times, man. So shout out to Dunbar High School.
That's right.
Shout out to Dunbar. Salute. So I want to set the context of this conversation up with a story, and I want you to jump in.
Okay.
All right. So when I started my studies in the trauma unit, working with 25 guys that have been injured, one of the things that, and Che, that's actually how I met Che. One of the things that I encountered in a young brother that I was working with had come into the hospital, and he had been stabbed multiple times. And what he had not revealed to the hospital staff is that, it was actually the result of a IPV relationship, right? And so he confided in me that that's what happened, but was like, I want to keep this to myself. I don't want anybody to know about the situation. First of all, as a man, that's not going to be a good look for me. I don't want to get law enforcement involved. I don't want to get her locked up. And so, it just remained, as it always does in the work we do, it remained between us. But I think that's the context for the work that you're doing and trying to provide a more 360 view of the way domestic violence plays out, because we often see DV playing out where, there's a lot of focus on women, and rightfully and for warranted reasons, but we rarely ever talk about men who are victims and survivors of domestic violence, because we don't think that actually exists in a context within our community. So I just want you to, because you do such amazing work in this area, for you to just, drop knowledge on people about this phenomenon that we don't talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, men or males that are victims of domestic violence do not come forth. They struggle again with coming forward, feeling safe enough to come forward, because those stigmas that they face are very real at their dinner tables, which is, I ain't raising no punk. Man up. How you gonna tell a 2-year-old a man up? A 2-year-old male child a man up? You know, how you gonna tell this male child that they can't feel? You know, they can't share their emotions. They just gotta suck it up. Cause I'm not raising no punks. You know, but and literally when we do that, we suppress that male being in touch with his feelings. Okay, so he doesn't know how to touch it. He's afraid to touch it because the dinner table have made him afraid to touch it. Okay, and we have a lot of males between the ages of 2 and 100 that will not go there. And that in itself, that alone is traumatic. Having somebody constantly beat you down and keep saying, I'm not raising no punk, and keep saying you ain't no punk, you not no sucker, you know, wiping tears off your face. Having your dinner table constantly do that to you, why would he share anything with y'all that got to do with him being a victim of domestic violence? He's not going to come forth and share with them. You know, he's going to pick people like you to confide in that this will really happen to me. You know, because it got to come out somewhere. It got to come out somewhere, somehow. So, you know, the work that you do, the work that I do is very important. I'm loud about our male children being done wrong at the dinner table. I'm loud. I'm stepping on you. I don't care. I'm smacking you in your face. I don't care, because we need to wake up about how our male children suffer from domestic violence, just like our female children suffer from domestic violence. Why is it that our female children, why is it that the females have one-stop shops to go to get help for domestic violence, but the boys don't?
Hey, Miss Queen, you want to know what's crazy? You know, you won my heart over when I listened to I'm not sure where you were, but you were like, man, women been killing men for years.
For years.
Just to hear a black woman stand up for a black man, that won me over immediately, because I'm from this area. You know what I mean? I understand how women talk to men. I understand how they feel about us as black men. I get all of that, right? So when you did that, I want to salute you, because you really gave me a breath of fresh air when you did that.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, that's why, like you're saying, that's why gun violence is so high in DC right now. Because these black men don't know how to deal with their emotions. They're walking around with a chip on their shoulder because a lot of people in their family, that's women, then told them, you ain't gonna be shit. You ain't gonna never be shit. You just like your father. You know what I mean? You're gonna be locked up or dead just like your father. You know what I'm saying? These black men go through all this, especially these young black boys. So when we grow up with that malicious attitude, then they ask us, why you like that? Because that's how you raised me. You was fucking me up at the age of 8, at 9, beating me with shit. So I just want to salute you on that, Miss Queen, man. You won me over.
Thank you so much. Thank
when
you so
did
much.
that. Oh.
And that's facts. I tell them every time I come out, look, I probably didn't smack your father. Okay, because I know how to smack a man. I know how to spit on him. I know how to verbally assault this brother, make him feel less than what he thought he was before he knew me, you know. So women do that. We do that. Moms do that. Girlfriends do that.
So Quinn, let me ask you, because this is an interesting conversation in terms of intergenerational trauma, which we focus on in our work too, and in the documentary. So I want to get to how we often emphasize, you know, a whipping, and like the deepness of what that term actually means. Like going to get a belt, which we all, I would assume, as many of us have been raised in black families, have been told to go get a belt so we could get whipped. I've heard deeper stories about, you know, people having to get into the shower, they have to get out wet and naked, and their parents are beating them with a belt. But how far that goes back into intergenerational trauma that stems from slavery, right? I don't think we make the connection about even the term whipping and using a belt to beat someone. right? And thinking that we're going to beat our children into submission because that was passed down generationally from the time that we were enslaved, right? But we don't really ever make the connection to that. So I want to know, like, from you, like, where do you think that started with what you've mentioned in terms of, the violence that sometimes women can exert on men and slapping them in their face, emasculation, making a man feel like he's worth less than his own manhood and feeling like he's a man, and then that turns into toxic masculinity. Like, where did that emanate from?
Yeah, the women in my family are aggressive women. So I mean, part of it is part of it is probably gonna be DNA, right? It's in my blood. The other is what I saw sitting at the dinner table. What I saw my grandmother could do to my grandfather, who was 6 feet, and she only like 5'5". So watching that, having it in my blood, is like, okay, well, these must go together. So this must be what you do when you get a boyfriend or when you get a husband. But I was the victim first. So I was the victim of domestic violence. And then once my best friend was shot 5 times by her baby father, that's when it came out of me like, it's never going to happen to me, son. I reverted back to my dinner table and what I saw my grandma and her sisters and all them like being. I jumped right into my DNA. I jumped right into the behavior that I saw. And that became me. So it's learned behavior. I'm watching it and learning it. And then it is a percentage of the DNA. But with the DNA, I could have used it for something better. I could have used that energy, that aggressiveness for something better than whooping up on a man. You know what I mean? Or smacking my boyfriend, spitting in the face of my boyfriend, and get all the way to the level of where now I have the gun facing your head. I'm ready to kill you. Like, that's way too much. I had to have learned that or saw that somewhere in my environment, in my household. So it plays out at the dinner table.
So, Miss Queen, let me ask you this. How important is a mother in her daughter's life on how to treat a man, how to talk to a man? How important is that figure to that little girl?
That is extremely important because you want your daughter to identify that what love really is. You know what I mean? And we have a lot of mothers who perception of love is distorted. They don't really know what it is to be able to give it to their own children, their own daughters. So it ends up playing out again like domestic violence. Here you have this woman who has probably been hurt in a relationship or in multiple relationships. And so now she's just on defense. So any dude she get is going to come out. And he could really be there to love her. But she's going to screw that up because the perception of love is distorted based off generations and things and what we have actually seen. You see? So mothers and daughters need help being able to get, another perception of what love really is, as opposed to what I saw and what I learned at my dinner table.
So how important is that mental, how important is seeking that mental health perspective, being able to sit down and talk to a counselor or talk to a therapist, right? Because what we've learned is that hurt people hurt people. And I think that what happens is people in general, but since we're talking about women, they turn to the best friends or the girl groups and they going through the same shit as that individual woman is. You know what I mean? And I don't really see a lot of people stepping outside that box to go talk to a mental health counselor or therapist and not talk to your friends.
That is a huge problem. You're right on point. That's a huge problem with women because women had this perception of I'm strong. I can get through it. I'm strong. Girl, if I made it through my childhood, I can make it through anything. Well, technically, you ain't make it through your childhood. You really didn't, because I still see you as a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 13-year-old, 15-year-old who's still struggling with childhood trauma. So if we don't catch it in childhood, adulthood, we might not ever catch it. They may not ever reach out and say, man, I need to talk to somebody, because I'm going through a domestic violence situation, and domestic violence is closely linked to mental illness. It can bring on a mental illness, right? Even though there's predisposition to mental illness, it can still egg on a mental illness. So it's very important for me to say, let me step outside my comfort zone of women where all of us think we so strong, and reach out to somebody that I know, a resource, or somebody that I know who can help me with this conversation. That's very important for the sisterhood to do. And I'll say one more thing and let it be. With my daughter's murder, everybody like, she's so strong, It's nothing strong about my daughter's murder. It's nothing that made me strong about that. And I say that all the time because women need to understand that's a weakness. What happened to my daughter broke me. I'm not strong behind it. See, so we got that wrong perception of what strong is. And it leads us to a lot of deadly behavior.
So I want to ask in terms of a couple things that you mentioned. One, we see it a lot in diverse childhood experiences, right? So when you experience trauma as a child and you don't get that healed, it's been proven that that'll have an effect on your health when you become an adult, whether it's your mental health or your physical health, right? And so I want to implore everybody to understand that even though that might have happened to you when you were 5 or 6, if you never addressed it, it'll manifest itself in your health when you're an adult. I don't think people often make the connection to that. But I want to ask you as well in terms of, and I'm so sorry to hear the death of your daughter. In terms of what happened to your daughter, did you see this? Because a lot of times I think even when somebody takes their life and engages in suicide, we see the signs very early on when we look back and we're like, okay, if I would have picked up then, I would have understood that this was going on and I might have intervened, but I kind of overlooked the signs. Were there signs that you saw that were potentially leading to that tragic outcome with your daughter?
Yes, there were signs there with my daughter. Because once again, my story is I was the victim and the abuser. So I could see myself and my daughter struggling with this relationship, being pregnant by somebody who is not willing to change for you, sitting there lying and saying, I will do this for you, but not willing to change for you. And I when my daughter was pregnant, I asked him, I say, you ready to be a father? He said, I'm going to follow her decision. I'm going to support her. Basically, okay, so that's telling me, okay, so he ain't ready to be a father. My life about to be hell, dog. I'm about to go through some shit. This was about to happen to me, right? We trying to have a baby or whatever. They still, in the mix up of arguing and going through the motion. I see myself in him because now I'm talking to him. I want him on the phone. I'm trying to calm and diffuse the situation. Like, look, that's your baby. You ain't got to worry about nothing. Look, y'all need to stop this mess. Let's just get the baby here, And he say, Miss Gasson, I know that's my daughter. I ain't worried about that. But one thing about him, one thing about abusers, we'll never forget what that victim done. We'll never forget what that partner done to us. And there will be repercussions for it. Okay, whether it be now or later. And for my daughter, I just was saying to her merely that, look, my story, because my daughter, she's the reason why I'm here having a conversation. First of all, because of her, she pushed me out there and said, Mom, you can talk to my generation. You can have this conversation. We all around the city and schools, everywhere, having this conversation with my daughter, right? You never think your child won't go through it, because she right here with you. I knew my daughter could go through it. I know anybody child, it's not no exception. Domestic violence don't make no exceptions. It will traumatize any one of us, right? So I told my daughter, I said, look, if he carrying a pistol, he will use it on you. She said, oh, no, Mom, he not crazy. He not crazy. I said, he is. And I said, from the looks of things, somebody going to end up getting hurt real bad. And sure enough, he murdered my daughter. Everybody else was so shocked. I was shocked. I was not shocked, not one bit, because I had seen it in him. I seen it in my daughter. I seen what they were doing. It was me.
And I think that goes back to people needing help, people needing to talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Us as a Black community need to take this mental health component very serious. This goes back to the Willie Lynch days. Our ancestors was beat. You know what I mean? And we walk through life like, I'm too proud to ask for help. And that shit is crazy. And what also pisses me off is that in school, what are these counselors doing? You know what I mean? I'm sure this child or this teenager is showing glimpses of anger in school. So instead of expelling them, mandate their low ass to counseling. Because one thing I do know about it, children become teens, teens become adults. And they take all that trauma with them. So as the elders that we are, what can we do to install these traditions in our schools and in our children? Because one thing about life is always going to be trouble. There's always going to be a hiccup. There's always going to be somebody coming at you on some bullshit. Or you're not going to agree with this person, or this person not going to agree with you. We got to learn how to handle this shit. We got to learn how to sit down and articulate.
So Queen, how do we break that cycle? As Chase said, I mean, we talked a lot about, epigenetics, and some of it could be a mark on your DNA. We know that trauma is a mark on the DNA. We lost her for a minute, so I know she's gonna come back. But brother, we talk about this all the time in terms of the trauma that's happening in our communities. And one of the things I would say is, recently, at least for me, and it was a learning experience. Like I took a mental health first aid course, and there were aspects about that course that I learned a lot about how to, approach a situation that I had not really thought about. When I see somebody in mental health distress, we see that all the time, but I think we need to train more people in our neighborhoods and our families in that, to learn how to approach somebody when they see that they're in mental health, a stressful situation. Because I don't think we may often hear somebody talk about, and this goes back to what you were saying, Queen, like we'll hear somebody express that they're going through distress, but we tell them to man up, right? Like, oh, you can handle that, or we tell them to go pray on it. And that's another thing I want to get clear, in terms of, in our communities, the church is not going to save you from a mental health crisis. It might save you spiritually, but the church is not. Most churches aren't trained to help you deal with a mental health crisis that you're going through. So stop telling people all the time to go pray on something that they're dealing with. People need professional help. And I understand sometimes you can't get to, a therapist. You might rely on your pastor, but you can't end, your the way to address your problems just by going to church. You can't pray that away. And I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Right. That is very true. The faith-based community is still struggling with even saying, Queen, I want you to come into the church and talk to my congregation. You know, I want you to have that set up with the men. I want you to have that set up with the women. Because my strategy is this. I'm not coming into your school system unless you're going to give me a group of boys by themselves. Because, yeah, you got all these programs that come into the school system for the girls to talk about how they can get mentally prepared. But what about for the young men, right? For the young boys? I want to talk to them about domestic violence. I don't want them to have no co-ed session. I want them to have a session by themselves. And a lot of the young boys, when I go in and talk to them, they always say, Queen, I wish my mother could be a fly on the wall. I wish I could take you home with me. I wish my parents could hear what you're saying right now. Because they don't get it. Same thing with the faith-based community. You know, the men need their own session, support group to be able to deal with the things that they have dealt with in terms of trauma. Don't be always trying to lump them up with the women. That's what they do. They end up focusing all on the women. America's going to give you money for the women being victims of domestic violence. So they lump it all up for women. But that's domestic violence don't work like that. It works like I would destroy a man or a woman. And they equally need their own support groups for it. But, you know, congregations are afraid to tap into that support for our men and our women separately like that because, hell, I might stop the tithing box. Hell, I might cut the ties short. You know what I'm saying? They not gonna let me do that.
Speak on.
You know, they need that money to come in. I love the Lord, and I know the politics of the church. I get it. I understand. But come on now, you know that the church have been a safe haven for us for years and years and years and years. You know that we will naturally want to come to church and try to get some help. Okay? So why wouldn't we begin to incorporate mental health into our strategies of seminary or theology in terms of helping our people? Because we say our people are sick, right? We say God only can help those that are sick, right? He cleaned up the dirty. We talk about the mind too. The dirty of the mind, the sick of the mind, the sick emotionally. You know, it ain't just y'all. They got to stop doing that because, and a lot of it is linked to that pot. They don't want that pot to be tampered with. I'm sorry, I gotta keep it a trillion. And my father is a preacher, and I'm keeping it 100 with y'all, right? They don't want that pot tampered with. But because my father, you know, was a pastor of a church, I was able to have the domestic violence program in my church. See what I mean? The 501c3. It really was linked to helping people with HIV, because you know the crisis of HIV hit first. That's when all the churches went and got the 501c3s. They help with HIV, right?
Right.
And we was able to incorporate domestic violence in that. We was able to also incorporate addiction, Narcotics Anonymous, NA, AA, being incorporated in that, right? But you know, you got a lot of churches who got them 501c3s just for HIV. And that ain't no crisis no more, for real, because insurance can pay that. But domestic violence is still an issue. It's still a problem. It's still a crisis. We're still not solving this problem.
And I think, Queen,
I might get cussed out for, you know, saying that.
Nah, that was a word. That was a word. Keep it a buck.
Even to touch on the domestic violence piece, I mean, let's think about how many times a man that walked outside and seen his car violated, his windows bust out, his tires flat. You know what I mean? On the car, say "fuck you, nigga" or whatever it's saying. You understand what I'm saying? Like even things like that to me is considered domestic violence, right? But when it happens, so it happened to me once, right? The police pull up. First thing they say is, "What you do to piss her off?" What I do to piss her off, nigga, you see my shit? You know what I mean? And instantly, I developed a anger, man. Like it's crazy. And I think
Right.
Meek Mill said it the
Right.
best, man. We're at war with the system and the streets.
Yeah, I agree
It's so true.
with you. And the reason why the police do that to, you know, men is because America pays to train police, right? The Violence Against Women Act trains the police and the justice system, and men are not included in the Violence Against Women Act. That's why it's called the Violence Against Women Act. There is not one for men. So they gonna come out and say, what you do to her? Men, brothers, you got to keep your evidence. You got to keep your evidence if you're going through something like this. You got to reach out to Queen Afi and say, look, this is happening to me. What are the steps that I need to take so I can make sure I am being treated fairly in this situation? Because other than that, you're going to be treated like an abuser. And hell, you're the victim. And when abusers say that, you know, we're going to do this and we're going to do that to you, that includes your property. We're going to vandalize your property. And vandalism of the property going to come to now me vandalizing you. You see what I mean? So now the brother got to sleep with one eye open because you can't trust this girl. Let's go. And I asked the young men, I say to the young men that, you know, I study with in the school system, say, what did you learn from this session here that you had today? I didn't realize that verbal abuse is as deadly as it is. I didn't realize that I could be verbally abused. I didn't realize that financial abuse was a tag. You know, and they asked me, they said, Queen, what if she hit me first? Do I get to hit her back? That tells me clearly you're not educating our sons on what a healthy relationship is. You just tell this young boy, walk away. What the freak do walk away mean? And this girl trying to kill you or have done things to show you that I will kill you by vandalizing your property. No, we giving our young men horrible dating advice. Horrible advice. We give our young boys horrible advice.
And I think the problem is, the problem is too, in the same way you see in abusive relationships with women, it's a lot of men out here that are being abused that are feel like they hostages to the women that's abusing them. Like, and you've seen it. I mean, we've all probably seen it with our friends being emasculated by women, and you seeing it and hearing it, and you wonder, looking at your man like, why are you staying in that relationship? And he tell you because he love her, right? And afraid to walk away from it. And we got a lot of brothers out here, let's be honest, that are in similar situations that are being abused, that they could walk out the door to and choose not to. They'll stay in that situation, be verbally abused, physically abused, and will never leave. So I want brothers to be more honest about the situations that they might be in there that look just like an abusive relationship that they might see with a man abusing a woman, or in similar situations just like that, and won't walk away and will stay in it even if they being arrested, abused, cut, beat up, scratched up, car keyed up, and will still stay with that same woman because they think that's love.
Because their perception of love is distorted. You know, a lot of relationship advice for young boys is walk away. It don't matter what she do to you, you just walk away. How's that giving this young man a real platform of what it takes to actually be in a healthy relationship with somebody? Furthermore, you have beat the young boy up emotionally and told him he can't feel nothing. So how the hell is he a good candidate for a healthy relationship anyway? That's not what he gonna identify with. he gonna identify with a woman that is probably aggressive towards him, especially if he experienced it at his dinner table by women or by a woman at his dinner table growing up. He gonna unconsciously attract that same woman. It ain't that he want to. It's just unconsciously. That's what the brain know. See, and that's what he liable to get into, that same relationship. And they say, Queen, so you mean to tell me I'm dating my mother? Yeah. In so many words, you are. You dating your mother. The very same woman who you said had treated you less than.
So let
You
me
see what I mean?
ask you,
So
let me
our
ask you a
young
question.
men really got to start.
Let me ask you a question on that, Queen, because this is another thing that I see happen a lot. Speak on
Question is
how
that
a
you
lot
kind
of
of broke up a bit.
speak on how a lot of mothers, are almost in relationships with their sons, like their son is their man. Like, what is that about with women treating their sons like their son is their boyfriend? Right? And you done turn because your man might not be around and you're not in a romantic relationship or whatever, you done turned your whole relationship with your son into a dysfunctional relationship, and your son almost has become your man.
You want to make that young boy a better version of his own father. Does that make sense? His father could be, he ain't so good after all. He a bump. You want to make that son a better version of his own father, right? So you think, maybe treating him a little bit more with a little bit more closeness, or a little bit more lean in type of deal, is gonna help the relationship. And so you end up now disciplining him in a way where, he becomes a stern man. He understands that his DNA is this. And it's like, you know what I mean? He understands, oh, my father was this. Okay, he wasn't able to do that. From DNA perspective, you want to try to link to, which is going to confuse the hell out of him. You see what I mean? Because at the end of the day, he's still questioning, like, who am I? Why would you make me feel like I'm the man? Where's my father? Some of them say, where's my father? Why did my father walk out on you? What's wrong with the situation? What happened? And women will sugarcoat that conversation to try to get their sons to be better versions of their fathers. Because, you find out the baby father ain't worth two pennies. You see what I mean? But that's the dude you pick, which means your child gonna have that DNA. And that child should know, irregardless of what you thinking, their real DNA, who they are really linked to. You see what I mean? That's the same situation I'm in too. But my daughter's baby, right? I know my daughter's DNA, but I don't know her father DNA. How am I going to be able to really get a baby what she needs? You see what I mean? From the biological perspective, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'll be able to do it from my daughter, but she still got to get it from her father, because she still is going to need that to make her full circle, to get those questions answered about who am I? Why do I do these things? Why do I eat like this? Why am I tall like this? Young brothers be wanting to know this. Young brothers be wanting to know these answers. And mothers sit there and give them a false perception by saying, you the man. Your father, he couldn't do it, so you gonna be the man now. But he going 9 times out of 10, this boy gonna end up doing what his father doing. You know what I mean? And that's just by nature, because DNA don't change.
You want to know what's crazy, Queen? A lot of guys that we come across, just in general with this work, they say the reason why I started selling drugs is to help my mother with the rent.
Right. You gonna be a better hustler than your father was, because he locked up. See what I mean? He had all this money. You gonna be a better hustler than him. And women will literally tell their sons that you're gonna be a better hustler, and I'm gonna show you how. And then they gonna get the bricks out and show them how to do it. See what I mean? Instead of educating that young boy on his DNA, because that's what he gonna really need. That's gonna make him or break him in the end. But the black community, we don't want to talk about the DNA. We want to talk about the DNA that's linked to the South, that's linked to Dr. Martin Luther King, that's linked to Obama. Nah, that's not your DNA, son. Unless you can show me some paperwork, that's not your DNA. Who are you?
And it's crazy.
And a lot of brothers.
It's crazy that you say that, Queen, because
brothers and sisters.
My family come from 5th and O. I'm a bullock. You know what I mean? And a lot of the men in my family, they rob banks. That's what they did. You know what I mean? That's where I come from. You understand what I'm saying? And I think, I also know that they stood on morals and principles. Certain things they did do, certain things they didn't do. You know what I mean? And I think, like you saying, once you know what you come from, it helps you become who you are as an individual, and it helps you find yourself. You know what I mean? I understand why I got anger issues. I understand why I might want to put my hands on somebody. I understand why I might be so violent, because my grandfather was like that. My father was like that. All my uncles are like that. Like, I understand that. You know what I mean? So so like you said, when these boys don't grow up with their fathers, they'll never have an understanding on why they are the way that they are. And I think that and that's one of the biggest reasons why I think, it's so many of us in the ground. And it's so refreshing to hear the words that's coming out your mouth, Queen, because I've never heard a woman take up for men the way that you doing. Like, fuck all that bullshit. Like, I respect you for that. You understand what I'm saying? I've never heard a woman take up for men how you doing. Never. And I mean that, and that's dear to my heart. You know what I mean? I like you blowing my mind.
Go ahead, Queen. You're on mute.
The truth of the matter, okay, I'm on mute. That's blessed right there. I appreciate that. I mean, like, we're dealing with tragedies that they're really facing at their own dinner table. You know what I mean? Just by not knowing their DNA, the child is always going to say, "Who am I?" And then that young boy start looking for love outside the home. And so now he got with a group of homies, he got dog pound, he got a game now. Because, man, they feel the way I feel. They keeping it real with me and what I feel. They know what I feel. All that young boy want us to do is to know how he feel and embrace what he's feeling. But we so lost in that when it comes to our young men, because we're constantly saying, "You not no punk, you not no sucker," and we worry about he ain't no faggot. What the freak do that got to do with that young man's emotions and feelings and knowing who he is as an individual, being firm enough to stand on his DNA, mother and father, knowing biologically to which he come from? And we ain't talking about Dr. King DNA unless you could prove it to me on paper. You see what I mean? A lot of young men are amiss to that, and it's ridiculous. America suck for that, dog. They suck for that. And I got two sons. I got an 18-year-old and a 7-year-old. See what I mean? Never, not one time can my sons ever say, "My mother called me a sucker. My mother called me a punk. My mother disrespects me." Never, not one time can my young men say that. You see what I mean? Because I know what I done did to men. I know what I done did to your uncles and your brothers and your cousins and them. You see what I mean? And it was wrong. I've been around women. Go ahead, boo.
So Queen, you said you did it to they uncles, cousins, etc.
Yep.
When did you have that moment when you were like, all right, everything that I did to all of these brothers in my life was wrong? When did you have that moment?
Yep. I almost killed my son. He was 2 months old at the time. And I'm that mom at the time. Man, I would never do nothing to hurt my child. You got me messed up. I don't play when it comes to my children. You know how the mothers are, right? We don't play when it comes to our children, but we be doing all kind of shit, risking their lives. Okay, now they understand that that's what we do. I risked his life. I come from Congress Heights all the way to Hatfield, Maryland, off the woo-wee, off the woo-wee. Good Lord, have mercy. Fell asleep behind the wheel with my 2-month-old son in the back of the car, like police knocking on the window, waking me up. Talking about what you doing? You drunk, miss? You high? We can smell it on you, man. That woke me up. I was floored. You heard me when they did it, but I still didn't get it then, right? I'm taking more looks at my son. He getting old on me. It started weighing on my conscience. Start eating at me. I said, I got to go back down here and get this report and find out what I actually did to my son. Broke my heart to know that I had a reckless endangerment charge on my own 2-month-old baby. Made me say, look, you got to get some help. You cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You got to reach out and get some help because you crazy. Because you the same mother talking about you ain't going to do X, Y, and Z to your child, but you sit up here and almost could have killed him, myself, and anybody else that was out there driving at 2 o'clock in the morning. Come on, that's wrong. But see, women, they have a hard time facing up and owning up to the dangers that we put our children in. We risk their life. Even my daughter, she was holding her 2-month-old baby when this clown shot her in the head. So now the baby is at risk to domestic violence. We don't pay attention to it as mothers. You see? And it's wrong. It's disrespectful. It's child abuse when you do that to your child. When you got your child living in domestic violence stuff, it's child abuse. CPS should be called in because we don't got no business destroying the life of innocent children. And I'm in that bracket. I keep it a trail. I'm in that bracket. That's when I had my wake-up call.
So how do we, after we going through this journey in this conversation, and we got so many more miles to go, but I know we can't talk all night. How do we come to some resolution? Because I know you talk a lot about resolution. How do we come to restore people and try to make them whole and repair the harm? People aren't going to forget. We know that for a fact. Whatever happened to you is traumatizing and imprinted on your brain and your memory forever. That's not going to be something that you easily address. But how do we get people to become whole again after they've gone through this much harm and hurt people?
Yeah.
How do we get to that? You had a wake-up call, but do we need to wait for everybody to get to a wake-up call, or can we stop it before they even have to get that far with it?
Prevention, having these conversations, doing what y'all doing by inviting me on and having these conversations so listeners can hear, okay, wow, like my brother is saying, you blowing my mind tonight. I never heard no female, speak up like this, having that different kind of conversation, those diverse conversations right at our dinner table. It's going to be excellent. Parents got to be more transparent about what they have been through. Parents have got to be more transparent about the conception of the children. Tell the children the truth about their DNA, not Dr. King DNA, unless you can prove it to me on paper, right? Open up that dialogue right at your dinner table and go ahead and let the children have a voice. It ain't gonna kill you. It's gonna make you better. It's gonna make you understand them better. And so instead of them looking for love outside the home, they feel love in the home. Well, I can talk to my mom and dad about anything. They never judge me. They never criticize. They never blame, right? And then the other piece was that is we want to push everybody into forgiveness. Let everybody have their own authentic beliefs about forgiveness. You cannot, we not Jesus Christ. Oh, look, we cannot do what he did, okay? People got to work through the mental part of being able to learn to forgive somebody if that's what they choose to do. It's a lot of people that are not going to be able to forgive some of the traumatic things that they have been through in their life here on earth. Let them have that right. Let them be able to talk about that and share that and be open with that, and not us saying, man, you need to forgive. Girl, you need to forgive so you can move on. Ain't no stipulations on forgiveness. It's either you do or you don't. It's either you do or you don't. Ain't no stipulations on that. Be your most authentic self and working through that process of forgiveness. Don't force nobody to do that. Okay? And number 3 is going to be, you heard my voice tonight. If you feel like, something came up, you can relate. You got a question, you got a comment, you're not really sure. Domestic violence is a secret. Mental health is a secret. I understand that. That's why I treat it as a secret. Reach out in secret. Don't nobody got to know that you talked to me. Don't nobody have to know that you reached out to me, because I'm not no Bama. I don't do that. Right? I take your feelings seriously. I take mental health and domestic violence very seriously, because it is messing up our dinner tables, and it has been doing, like the brother said, since slavery days. We have, as black people, as slaves, we have taken on the behavior what master did us. Now we do it at our own dinner tables. And we know how much that hurt our ancestors. And they did not have a trauma clinic nowhere when Lincoln decided to free all the slaves. They didn't have no mental health, no way. They just was free. They got to partying, they got to drinking, they got to smoking, they got to make babies, they got to get married. I mean, I'm free now. But we needed help back then. We needed trauma help back then. We were not able to get that. See? And so, but now it's more hope, and healing is more available to us. Let's take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. And like I said, don't nobody got to know. You can do it in secret. Don't nobody have to know a thing. So I want to leave, everybody with that there.
So we want to make sure that, if any brothers are going through that experience, that they could reach out to you, Queen Afi. And I also want to shout out JC, who just put in the comments that he's in a group of young brothers who are in wheelchairs who was shot. Yo, reach out to us, bro, to our producers, bro. We might try to bring y'all on to this show, man. I think that would be real solid and sturdy. Y'all could come on and tell y'all story, man. So contact us, bro. Appreciate you. So we're going to try to shift gears, get into another part of our show, and get your feedback on a couple of things that we have in our section of the show called Untitled. Let's do it. So we saw this last year in Baltimore, and we also seen it in DC, where we finding like more girls and more young women are being killed in the last year than ever before. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
We got to stop telling victims to just leave. Just leave is a huge part of why our women are being killed, because they think that they can really pack up and go. And the abuser, that was the abuser. We don't play that. You leaving and going, coming back, leaving and coming back, leaving and coming back. We don't do that. Eventually, your life can end, and your life will end. You know, if it's somebody going through that, they need help in secret. They can never tell the abuser. You got to stop telling the abuser and making threats that I'm going to leave you and take the children. You will never see us again, because you are going to die doing that.
My condolences to 48 women and girls in the vein of saying her name: Shannon Barner, Alujane Davis, Michelle Green, Shion Miller, Carolyn McFadden, and Kaiya Wade. You know, to them and to their families, God bless y'all. Next slide. So last year in DC, we had more. We had actually double the number of women who were killed in homicide, and then we also had more juvenile victims as well. You know, we were seeing young people. This is another thing you had mentioned in terms of you were driving around with your child. You know, what do you think about, you know, so many young women being caught in the crossfire, hanging out with guys that are in the street, and now, you know, because we don't see many rules in the street, they end up being hit, or young brothers out here driving their kids around in their cars and knowing that they hot, and they end up getting hit, or their child get hit and they don't get hit.
Man, it's like, what did you learn? You know, what was your upbringing? Why this life? Why are you so readily risking your life? Why do we feel like we can do that? What is it in us that drives us to literally risk our lives by getting in the car with people driving around, doing things you ain't got no business, and the bullet could fly any minute. You know, young girls in the crossfire, children in the crossfire. You know, why do we risk our life for this type of life? Is my question. Where we dropping the ball at? You know, what is it that we need to do to let our young people know that life is precious? You know, and your destiny don't gotta be, you in the crossfire. You know, your destiny could be that we can get to that dinner table and resolve some conflict now, so everybody can have a voice. You know, to be able to talk about what's going on before we go out and take this stuff out in the street. Misplaced anger, it's vicious.
I want to go back to a point that Che made when he said about the mothers encouraging their sons to hustle. But what about the girlfriends also that a lot of times are behind the deaths and shootings of these brothers because they know the lifestyle that they in, but they don't even really try to pull them out of it because of selfish reasons. They just want to get what they want to get out of that relationship, whether it's some bags or, you know, some shoes or whatever they're getting out of that. You know, where they jeopardize young brothers' lives by kind of encouraging them and not even trying to get them out of that lifestyle that is getting them hit up.
Hey, you know what that is? I'm the ride or die boo. We Bonnie and Clyde, baby. We gonna do this together. You go down, I'm going down too. We in it to win it. You heard Beyonce made that song. What she say? I hold your pistol for you or something like that. She said in the song. You know what I'm saying? That's what these young girls saying. That's what they ready to do, because you got the young girls picking up the pistols now. Too. It ain't all just boys. You know, it be a lot of them young women that be encouraging the young men, like, go ahead and do that. Yeah, we ain't got nothing to live for anyway. Yeah, they be saying that too. Yeah. They say that a lot too.
How we turn that around with them young girls that's actually the ones gassing these dudes up to be involved in that lifestyle and get hit up or get 100 years.
You know, it's a lot of girls, you know, who fathers back in the day had money, they was up getting it. You know what I'm saying? So this girl think, yeah, that's gonna be me. We about to get it. Little do they know the crack is done over. Capiche ain't never coming back. So these little $2 bags that they got or whatever they got, It ain't in that era though. That era is over. So why are they, perpetrating the fraud? Because right now that's a fraud. But they see the pictures, because we still got pictures from 89, 87. You know what I'm saying? You got people come and say, do you know who your father was? Do you know you got young men that know who the girl father was? You see what I'm saying? Start making them think that they could do what her father was doing. So yeah, who wouldn't want my father locked up for 100 years or he dead? Man, dude making me feel like, we could do this. Why not? See what I mean? So you got different little scenarios, different little, perceptions behind so many of these cases of what's really going on or what could really be going on. And that's one of them.
All right. Next one. I think this probably summed up our conversation, right? To some extent.
Yeah. 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 There go my babies. Yeah. Pretty much. My daughter baby and my son lost their sister and mom, to the hands of a young brother who felt pressured. To me, he felt pressured. My daughter was putting the press on him about being something that he couldn't be. Okay? And he came out fighting. Basically, I'm never going to be that man that I lied to you and told you that I was going to be. I'm never going to be him. You see what I mean? And like I was telling my daughter, these young girls, you cannot put the press on the brother like that. You cannot expect him to be something that he's not. You gotta accept that brother for who he's saying he is. You gotta understand, if you're gonna be able to and fit in to, if dude say he don't come in the house till after 12 a.m. in the morning, can you accept that? Because you're not about to press this man out to come in the house at 9 o'clock. Because that's what you want to do, come in the house at 9 o'clock. No, that's not what you about to accept the fact that I'm with a man who comes in after 12 o'clock in the morning. Right? Either you going to accept that, or you going to become compatible with somebody who comes in the house at 9 o'clock like you come in the house at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
You're not about to try to change no brother. You got to accept that young man for who he is. Period. Your loyalty cannot change him. And these young girls got this whole loyalty thing going on in their mind. And these brothers, they toss this loyalty word around so bad. You know what I'm saying? That they going to keep giving and giving and putting up with it and putting up with it and giving and giving, because I'm trying to show you that I'm different from them other females that you done been with. I'm the real one right here, which is what my daughter was doing. Trying to show him I'm a whole different female from what you've been dealing with. I could be loyal to you. And in the midst of that, she putting the press on him about being something else, being another kind of man. That's rule. Loyalty says what? You gonna die. Loyalty don't give you no room to grow in no relationship, in no intimate partner relationship. That don't give you no room to grow. Soon as somebody break the loyalty bond, somebody can die. It's something like that, right? Trust is a better word, because trust what? Can be broken and can be earned again, right? But they use this loyalty word, which means you got to die out. Once you get them loyalty tattoos on you and you got the loyalty, his name or her name underneath that, there's a potential that you're going to die out from that relationship. And my daughter died out. Like so many other females die out just based off that perception, that scenario. So I titled my daughter's story this: Loyalty, Lies, Betrayal. Loyalty, lies, and I mean Lies, lies, betrayal. My daughter was so loyal to this dude like so many other females are. She did not believe the lies. You know, females over there, I got some receipts. I have to show you my receipts. I saw you doing this. I saw you doing it. They don't believe it though. They don't believe them. And then they come back to portray them to where they can end up dead. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, brothers.
Nah, they just dropped. You just dropped. That was 100 right there. I gotta remember. There's some quotables you just gave. Um,
Remember that. Put that out
straight
there.
up, straight up jewels right there. Next one.
That's us again. You know, I gotta look at my daughter's name on a plaque on a tree. You know what I mean? And damn me, her baby gotta do this. This what makes it so upsetting because we had the children that are left behind, orphans. You know, he ain't care about where that baby went. The baby went to CPS the night of my daughter's murder. He didn't care. He did not care. He left her up for grabs. He left his own daughter up for grabs. So how could I ever trust you with my daughter? Look what you did to your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
How would I ever trust you with my daughter? Is you crazy? And my baby girl gotta love her mother from the sky, from pictures, from being raised at the burial ground, being raised at the graveyard, being raised at a tree. This is disrespectful. This is complete and utter disrespect to your own daughter. Damn what you did to my daughter. But to your own child, you did this too. Yeah, you owe her a lot of answers. You owe her answers. And to any question that she put out there and ask you, because I do want my baby to get with him. I do want her to get with her father. Because we ain't running from no conversation. We ain't no, that's not what we doing. She deserves answers. Is he going to be man enough to give them to her? The real ones? Are you going to be man enough to give her the real answers? And that's for a lot of fathers out here that is doing this to their children. That is doing this to our young babies like this. And hell, you ain't got to kill them to do. Don't nobody even got to be dead to have this going on. We got children that are living in these households and they feel dead.
Mm-hmm.
They have mentally checked out because all of the domestic violence and the fussing and the arguing and the bitch fuck you and you some shit and all this stuff going back and forth at the dinner table. The children feel dead.
We often say it's not, it's a difference between being dead and then being left for dead, right? Because there's a lot of people that we have left for dead. Next slide. So we just want to highlight, even though we went through a lot of violence in 2020, we seeing the same thing in 2021. And a lot of it we think is due to when we see these young women. We know a lot of it is probably due to people pent up inside their homes, people frustrated, as we've been talking, not knowing how to cope inside their homes. And we all know, that's just compounding the mental health problem, the fact that everybody's inside of their house and cooped up and can't get out. So we just want to make sure that everybody, realizes that the direction we going is not a good direction, and that we need more sisters like you, Queen Afi, that they could reach out to, so we don't have the numbers that we had last year. And in DC, we just saw 9 people were shot in 8 days that were killed. So let's try to get some better coping methods. Next one. So I want to ask you what you think about this. Joe Biden is proposing that $5 million will be spent on gun violence prevention. If you had your say so on how that money should be spent, what would you say?
Definitely allocated to the grassroots organizations that are on the ground doing the work, physically doing the work, where the young people know my name. They know the Trigger Project. They know, life after the gunshot, where we are literally putting our hands on these young babies to get the funding to be able to support them further getting healing in something like gun violence. You got to allocate that money to our young men that are locked up that still don't get the mental health and counseling assistance that they need to be able to get better and come out with new strategies. Yes, we have returning citizens, okay, but that only covers so much. That only covers so much. We had the repeat offenders also in the detention center where they don't get a lot of, the counseling on deeper levels that they need, specialized care. American mental health system do not pay for specialized care when it comes to issues like domestic violence and mental health, unless you have had, extreme histories of, and by this time you 50. By this time you 50 now. Instead of giving us the preventative methods that we need to catch our babies young and begin to educate them more on, different strategies that they can take in terms of their dinner tables, because they're going to go on and get them dinner tables, right? They're going to go on and have their own dinner table. And we want our strategies to look way more better. We want them to know conflict and resolution. We want them to know, hey, Queen Afi, she able to come in and mediate with us, man, and get us all on one accord about what we feeling. Because a lot of times we struggle with those conversations, right? We got the gun violence prevention where, we're gonna talk to our young people and let them be real about the gun situation. Because a lot of the gun situation is hush hush because you got a lot of police officers, a lot of ex-military people, all these people is selling these guns.
Yo, speak on.
So
speak on.
You got to be able to be the grassroots organization and really have that mind for prevention and really look in there and put some great solutions in it for our young people. Root causes. How can we get to the root cause of why this young boy feel like he need to have a pistol, or why this young girl feel like she need to pick up a pistol? Because our young girls are picking up guns too. And see, this is something that we don't want to talk about. And they ain't got no businesses. It ain't like they got, businesses where they got to protect something, because if you was going to protect something, you would get a gun license. You would go through the right procedure on how to, what it takes to be a gun owner. Okay? Because you may have a business. You may have, things, assets and things. Okay? We're not having these transparent conversations with our young people. We're not doing. We just want to tell them, don't you ever carry a gun in your life. Don't you ever pick up a gun. Why can't we give them education on what it is in terms of prevention from the gun violence perspective? Because we do have a lot of young people not afraid to pick the guns up and kill themselves and kill anybody else with it. Why can't we really talk about gun prevention and what it means to carry a gun, to be a licensed gun owner? Why can't we have that transparent conversation too? Why can't we have that transparent? Why is it that, let me throw this out there, suicide, brothers and sisters that want to commit suicide can pick up the phone and call a 1-800 number and get help, right? Why the brother or sister who feel homicidal can't pick up the phone and call a 1-800 number and get help in secret because they feel like they want to kill somebody? Because you do have a lot of young people out here that don't want to kill themselves. They want to kill somebody else. This America, man, is so messed up because they don't want to have a full circle conversation about what our young people are really dealing with out here trying to survive. It's unfair. It's not right. If you got a number for suicide, and we all mental health professionals, right? You got all these mental health professionals and all these psychologists out here and all that. They don't talk about having no 1-800 number where the person who feels homicidal can pick up the phone and call. And that is a very important part of ending gun violence in America.
No, I like that idea. We need to invest in that. And I would say to the point you were making earlier, in terms of guns, we've discussed this, Che and I, many times about, and this is just a totally another show, because we are not, even though we believe in gun violence prevention, we also are not anti-gun. So I wanted to get that straight.
Right.
And we have seen historically in this country, and it's been proven over the course of this epidemic, that Black people are now buying more firearms, right, for home protection, because they seeing what happened at the Capitol. They see what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. Black man just goes out jogging and gets gunned down and basically lynched by two white men and another white man who recorded it and shoot him dead, cold, dead blood in the street, right? So, you know, we know that Black people are purchasing more guns, and some of the stories that I've read is that even when they go into these gun shops, the white gun owners are acting like they got a sense of disdain and apathy that a Black person is buying a gun. So I just want everybody to understand that, like, they don't want to see us with guns that are used for our own protection. Not that are used to kill our brothers and sisters, but guns that are used for our own protection against white supremacy. So we had to make sure that we clear on that.
And I want to elaborate, you know, on this $5 billion prevention that's going to come out, you know, God willing. I hope it doesn't get wrapped up in these corporate companies, right? Like Miss Queen was saying, this money needs to hit the ground, right? We don't need someone that has no idea on how to deal with gun violence, has never been to the urban communities, has never had a conversation with any of these kids. These are not the individuals who need this money. These baseline, on the ground organizations are the ones that's struggling every day, right? And I also believe that when it comes to giving out money from the government, it's all political. You know what I mean? This organization might be tight with this congressperson, right? But when it comes down to it, your track record speaks for itself. You getting all these grant money, but 3 or 4 of your people get killed on the street that your office is on. So we need to be careful who we give this money to. Because DC is still one of the highest cities in America when it comes to gun violence. And we've been giving the money to the same organizations for
over
years.
and over and over again.
Ain't doing jack.
They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
And that's why I'm calling on I'm calling on all of my gun violence researchers of color that y'all need to get, even if you gotta take less money, to get involved in evaluating these organizations that have been getting money for 20, 30 years, never produced any results on how effective they are because they never been evaluated, but because they in that club, they keep getting those grants. So we need
they vetted.
We need to put the pressure on evaluating who really deserves to get the money, because a lot of these organizations don't deserve a dime.
And I want to say this, and I want to say this, and I'm saying this to you, Miss Queen. Whatever you need from us, from Life After the Gunshot, it's my word that we got you. Whatever it is,
amen.
You know what I mean? I want to form a partnership with you.
You definitely
because I really believe you the voice. I think a lot of people out here doing. I think a lot of people out here saying they doing shit, but they really ain't. I really see that you out here doing something. So you know, whatever we need to do, you know, you let me and the team know, and we're gonna do our best our ability to help you. Even if you need 30 minutes of fucking screen time for Life After the Gunshot, and you do your own segment, whatever it is, you let us know, and we're gonna put it together because your voice need to be heard.
I like that. I like the 30-minute segment. I like the 30-minute segment.
We're gonna move on that note we're gonna move into our last piece, and this is a little bit more funnier. All right, so Queen, did you watch Versus the other night? Isley Brothers versus Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I did not, but you know I'm familiar with them, man. I've
All
been
right,
seeing
so
the comments out there stuff.
we want to get since we talking about versus Isley Brothers, Earth, Wind, and Fire. We want to get your top 5 R&B groups of all time.
Of all time,
Yes.
shoot, I'm about to say the Dells. I'm about to say the Dell font. Ain't that the Dells? I'm about to say the
Yep.
Dells. I'm about to say the Stylistics. Of course,
Oh,
I'm
that's
about
my
to say the
favorite.
Isley Brothers. Of course, I'm about to say Earth, Wind, and Fire. And
That's
of course,
4.
I'm gonna have to say Maze. And you ain't doing nothing without Maze out here.
Yeah,
You crazy? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? We need to get Maze on that daggone show to battle any one of them. Come on now.
Hey, listen, Queen. That might have been the best top 5 I've heard anybody lay down since they've been coming on this show. We didn't ask top 5 on a lot of different topics. You laid down every single group I might have said. Definitely stylistic.
That's
Wind
what's
and
up.
Fire, Maze. Oh my God. And Isley Brothers, come on. And the Dells.
Yeah, and I ain't even trying to do romance, but damn it, I do it with all of them. I can get romantic for all 5 of them groups now. I ain't even the romance type. I can do romance with them, you heard me.
Let the people know. So look, Queen,
That's
we
right.
appreciate you coming on. As Chase said, yo, whenever you need us, we there. Yo, there's all your information. I love the glasses too. There's all your information right there.
Thank you,
I want to
boo.
take my prayers up, for your daughter. We'll be praying for her. We know she's looking down on
Thank
you and
y'all
God
so much.
spiritually guiding you through your
Thank you so
journey.
much.
She knows how important your mission is. So, we know she's your guardian
Yes.
angel right now. But we just want to say on behalf of
Yes.
Life After the Gunshot, we love you. So we want to
Thank
keep
you.
the
I
love,
love y'all.
keep the love going. And whenever you need us, we always here. We only but a phone call away from you. And so any closing remarks, Che?
Hey man, we're gonna iron out them details. I'm serious about that segment. I'm serious about that, Queen.
I'm
We're
down.
gonna iron that out.
I'm
What I
down.
mean? Like I said, I
I'm
think
down.
everybody need to hear your voice. Everybody need to hear your perspective. Everybody need to know about you. You know what I mean? So, we're gonna do the
I'm
best
down.
we can to make that happen.
One last thing I want to say,
Amen. I
Stat, that I
appreciate
didn't
it.
say is that Prince George's County also, I believe, has, if not the highest rate, one of the highest rates of domestic violence in the state. Prince George's counties, which we would be remiss not to address. But I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for all the knowledge and the gems and jewels we drop. When we chop this up and edit it, oh my God, we're going to be dropping a lot of gems that you said. So on behalf of Life After the Gunshot, DC, PG Worldwide, we out here.